They told me the house had good bones, that it was a fixer-upper, that the basement was a little creepy, sure, but solid. Stonework from the 1800s, hand-laid bricks. Good bones, they said. No one mentioned the silence. I bought it because it was cheap, and because after everything with my mother's death and my own unraveling sanity, I needed quiet, space, isolation. The place was half an hour outside town, surrounded by woods. No neighbors in shouting distance. Just me and the birds, I thought. But the birds stopped coming after the first week. At first, I blamed the basement. Or rather, the thing I'd heard in the basement. The night I moved in, I went down to find the breaker box, only to freeze at the top of the stairs. It wasn't the dark that made me stop. It was the complete absence of sound. You don't notice how loud silence can be until it's not natural. This wasn't the gentle hush of night. This was the dead, weighty silence of a mausoleum sealed too tight. No wind, no creak of beams, no distant wildlife. Just a void that stretched down those steps like a mouth yawning open. I flipped the switch. The single bulb at the bottom flickered to life, throwing harsh shadows across cracked cement. I stared into that flickering dim and forced myself down. I needed to. The fridge was defrosting, and my phone wouldn't charge. At the bottom, I stepped into the stillness. The bulb buzzed overhead. I found the breaker, reset it, and turned to leave. That's when I heard it. A soft breath. Not mine. I froze. My skin prickled. It was wet, shallow. It came from the wall. No, behind the wall. I turned slowly, staring at the old stone foundation. The breath came again. Then a whisper. Clarice. My heart nearly stopped. I ran. I didn't look back. The door slammed behind me, and I didn't open it again for days. I should have left then. I know that. But trauma does weird things to your instincts. You hear your mother screaming for hours in a hospital bed, and suddenly ghosts in the walls seem manageable. Besides, I didn't want to be well. Not really. The whispering started in earnest the second week. Only ever in the basement. And always my name. At first, I thought it was my name. But it wasn't. The voice was distorted, guttural, wrong. It would repeat syllables like it was chewing them. Reese. Eventually, I recorded it, played it back at full volume, headphones tight against my ears. The sound wasn't a name at all. It was something else entirely. Guttural vowels, wet clicks, a tongue that didn't quite know how to form human words. I began dreaming of lambs. Always the same, a foggy field at night. Dozens of lambs, still as statues, facing me. Their mouths sewn shut with black wire. Their eyes wide. A terrible silence in the air. Then something behind me, heavy, breathing, and I'd wake before it touched me. The dreams followed me into waking life. I'd see flashes in the mirrors. Long shadows hunched in doorways. The walls started bleeding. Yes, bleeding. It started with faint rust-colored stains that wouldn't clean, no matter how hard I scrubbed. Then they thickened, darkened. I'd wake to find the kitchen floor sticky, footprints trailing into the hall. Small, cloven, not human. That's when I found the room. The basement wall had always looked odd, like the stones didn't match. One night, armed with a hammer and a bottle of vodka, I knocked. Hello, I pried. Stone by stone, I tore down a section until I found a door. A wooden door. Old, with deep scratches gouged into the surface, as if something had tried to claw its way out. It was latched from the outside. Behind it was a narrow passage that led into a stone chamber. The air was colder, heavier. The silence, oppressive. It weighed on my shoulders like hands. And in the center of the room, on a rotting cot, sat a lamb. Alive. Breathing. Its mouth was wired shut. I dropped the flashlight. I don't remember screaming. I don't remember climbing the stairs. But I remember waking on the kitchen floor with my fingernails torn and bleeding, and the basement door sealed behind me with thick, iron chains I didn't remember installing. The lamb still bleated in my dreams. That dry, choked cry. The voice whispered louder now, not only in the basement, but in my walls, in the pipes, in the static on the radio. I tried to leave once. Bags packed. Car ready. But the woods weren't right anymore. The trees leaned toward the house. The road twisted into itself. And the GPS always brought me back to that gravel drive. Like the house wouldn't let me go. Now I live by candlelight. The lights flicker too much. Mirrors are covered. The basement, locked. But sometimes I hear scratching behind the door. A soft thumping. A bleat. I read somewhere that ancient cults would keep a lamb as a sacrifice, the silence of its death an offering. But if the lamb lived too long, if the sacrifice was denied, something else would come to collect. I think the lamb is waiting, but not for death. I think it's waiting for me. And every night, the whisper grows closer, like breath on my neck. Reese.